and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we're going to take a look at Langley Air Force Base, which is celebrating its 100th anniversary. And instead of focusing on the history this time, we are going to look at the current mission and the important work that goes on there to protect our nation and our defense. My guests are Colonel Caroline Miller. Welcome. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. And Colonel Pete Fesler. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks.
So, because I know I will mess it up, I'm going to ask each of you to go through your titles and what you do at the base.
Okay. So I'm the 633rd Air Base Wing Commander, and so what that means is that I take care of I'm sort of like the mayor of the whole installation, and I make sure that the infrastructure, the medical, anything that will support our mission partners, and Colonel Fesler will talk about his mission, but we make sure that they have the things and the equipment, supplies that they need to do to accomplish their mission. So what falls specifically under my wing is we've got the civil engineer, so they take care of all the infrastructure, and as you said, it's 100 years, so we've got a lot of infrastructure that's
a lot of aging infrastructure,
yes,
just like the city.
Yeah, a lot of aging infrastructure. So they take care of that. We do the communication, so all of your telephones, your computers, they take care of that. We've got our Force Support Squadron, and they really do they do sort of the fun stuff. They do childcare, they do the personnel actions, the golf courses, and everything that's sort of fun. And then we've got a very large medical hospital on the base that takes care of not only the active duty, but the civilians and the dependents. And they do, they're a full-blown hospital. They do surgeries, and they've got a lot of really new technique. And then we also do logistics support, and so we get the fuel out to the aircraft, and we make sure that they've got the supplies so they can do their mission. So that's primarily what we do under the 633rd.
So I'm going to use an analogy steal an analogy that you gave me earlier. If you think of Langley Air Force Base as a city, which it sort of is.
Yes, it is.
You're the mayor,
is, yes.
And probably the city manager as well.
That's exactly right. So just yesterday when we were having the tornadoes, so the emergency managers, they go through us, and so we determine whether we're going to let people go or if we shelter in place and everything. So that also falls under sort of my job jar, if you will, and then the security forces to make sure that everybody on the installation is safe and protected. So that's a great analogy as the city mayor. Okay. So that's great.
Thank you.
But we work well with our partners.
All right, and Colonel Fesler?
So I'm the commander of the 1st Fighter Wing. The 1st Fighter Wing is the F-22s and the T-38s that you see flying over Hampton, the runway, the air traffic controllers, the pilots, the maintainers. Along with the Virginia Air National Guard's 192nd Fighter Wing, we are the airborne part of the mission at Langley. It's about 2,000 people in total, and our job is to provide F-22s with their pilots and maintainers ready to go to war when we're called upon.
And that, I think, is what people think of when they think of the mission and current mission at Langley, because that's what we see, that's what we hear. We know those planes are out there. We know when you're doing exercises. We know when you're leaving and coming. And it's the visible part. What are some of the things that the Fighter Wing has done recently, or missions that you all have been called upon for?
Well, typical missions for the F-22 in general, but the Langley F-22s in specific, have most recently been in support of operations in Iraq and Syria. So F-22s have been engaged in that fight. We've been over there for about a total of a year over the last 18 months or so. We also do operations in the Pacific and in Europe as well. So it's a global response force, if you will, ready to respond to whatever taskings are out there.
And that is primarily you are global. But do you ever do missions at home? Are you ever called on for events here?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. We actually have, I think I mentioned this in our previous conversations, but what's called Operation Noble Eagle. And that is the defense of us here in the continental United States. We have aircraft sitting alert in various places around the United States, and we also have airborne alert missions where you actually have fighters conducting a patrol over the top of assets that we think are particularly critical to defend at any given time. Some examples of that might be, for example, the Super Bowl, anywhere where you have a large number of people gathered at one time.
Well, you don't think of that. Really, we're not at war. We don't think about needing protection. But in an era of terrorism, when you have large numbers of people gathered and heavily focused media attention, I'm sure it makes everyone feel much safer to know that you guys are there patrolling.
Sure.
Very, very high risk.
It's just like having a police officer standing on the corner. It makes everybody feel a little bit more secure.
And, so far.
Yes, ma'am.
But one of the things I think that's interesting, and the airplanes or jets have changed considerably over the 100 years. I'm sure 100 years ago people would look at the F-22 and have no comprehension that that's what we would evolve to. But a lot of it has evolved to behind the scenes and the intelligence and the cyber part of it. And I think most people don't get in to see that and don't know that that's going on out there.
Right. So at Langley in particular, not only do we have our two wings, but we are we're a very diverse base. And so you mentioned the intelligence and the surveillance. So we've got two additional wings on our installation, and one of them is the 480th Intelligence Surveillance Reconnaissance Wing. And what they do is they take images throughout the world essentially, and then they actually real time right here at Langley, they send their images forward to the warfighter. And so we really are fighting the war right here from, we're not at war, but we are at war, but they are fighting it right here at Langley Air Force Base. And so they send their images to the warfighter and to make sure that they know exactly what's going on, so they have a good picture of the entire area of operations out there. And so
when you say they send them on, I mean, these young folks,
and they
I mean, what a stressful position, but they're not in combat, but they're in combat, and they're making decisions looking over bunches of essentially video screens and determining what to send on. I mean, there's a...
Yeah, we have a lot. For
I'm
our airmen,
amazed.
they have a high level of responsibility, quite frankly, and they're amazing airmen. I mean, you just talk to them, and A, they're excited about their job, and B, they're making a difference, and they're just so educated. I mean, our airmen right now, our force is highly educated. Many of them come in with bachelor's and master's degrees, and just it's an amazing group of airmen to see that.
You bring up a great point. They are literally making life and death decisions, and I think that's a tremendous amount of responsibility we put on our airmen. And as Colonel Miller mentioned, the education level, the quality of the airmen that we have working there is truly amazing. One of the things that I think most people don't realize is for every soldier on the ground, for every airman in a cockpit over a war zone, there are literally hundreds of people behind the scenes making that happen, from the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance standpoint, to cyber, to space, to the maintenance folks and the entire support team. It's a really large endeavor to make that happen.
Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting because as a parent, sometimes we have this tendency to bemoan this generation that has grown up on video screens with a short attention span, the ability, sometimes good, sometimes not, to pay attention to 6 or 10 different things at once. And that skill is what is allowing this wing, the best trained, the most honed people, but it's showing a positive use for that.
Sure.
It's amazing to me.
It really is. I mean, the technological advances we've made just over the 100 years, it's...
Well, just over the last 5 years,
Well,
really.
and I think that,
that's pretty
exponentially
recent.
we just keep going faster and faster. And Colonel Fesler talked about the cyber mission. And so the Guard is actually, we continue to expand at Langley and continue to bring new missions as the world changes. And so the Guard is actually bringing a new cyber mission. The governor announced it a few months ago, but they're going to bring that here. And so the Guard is also integral to, to what we're doing in there. And so that cyber mission will come here to Langley, and we'll just continue to grow that piece of it. And then one other wing that I do want to mention, our newest wing, is the 363rd Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Wing, and they stood up in February of last year. And so similar to the 480th, they do intelligence surveillance, but their primary responsibility is targeting. So they actually will find the areas in which they will direct the warfighter to go. And so they do that right here at Langley. So Langley just is, we really are key to the defense of our nation.
It is so important. I think a lot of us don't realize all that goes on there. We don't get on base very often, if at all, and many times it's for a social function. There's so much there that is so crucial to what's going on. And when the war is far away and everything that's happening is way out there, I think the American citizen doesn't always understand or appreciate.
Well, there's going to be a great opportunity, I think, for the local community to see some of this in April when we have the Langley Open House and Air Show, the Air Power over Hampton Roads. Be a great opportunity for folks from the local community to come in and meet our airmen, get a chance to see them, see what their missions are, look at some of the airplanes, And we're tying it into the history, too, by bringing in a lot of the airplanes that we've flown over 100 years here at Langley. So I think it should be a pretty good event.
I think it'll be great, and I think it's wonderful, and I know it's a huge undertaking to open the base and let people on because of all the security that is absolutely necessary. But it's wonderful that you all can do that.
Yeah, and we think it's just a great opportunity, like Colonel Fesler said, but I mean, we have such a great partnership, and one of the reasons Langley has been so successful over the last 100 years is really the support that we get from the community. Hampton, that partnership that we have with Hampton, you know, the mayor and all of their city, I mean, everybody there, to the school, to the superintendent, is just unbelievably amazing. And so we haven't had the opportunity, because of the security risk over the last 5 years, really to open up, and so we're thrilled that we can actually, you know, just let people on, and not only to see the great air power, but just to say thank you. I mean, really, because, you know, we feel like coming home when we come to Hampton. I mean, everybody here embraces the military. They open their homes to us. In fact, we have a great partnership right now. They've got, the Hampton did Adopt an Airman, and so we have several.
I heard we had more families volunteer than we had airmen at the beginning.
And now the airmen, and I'm
wonderful.
telling you that has just taken off, and it really just, you know, especially for our young airmen, like you said, they're very young, they're new, away from their home. First time maybe, and now they get to go home and they have someone showing around. So this is our to say thank you to everybody and all the support that they have given us over the years, and I expect that will just continue to grow.
Well, and that's what I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you a little bit about projecting into the future. I know none of us can predict what Congress is going to do, and it is important for the military to continue to consolidate and save money and, you know, use our tax dollars wisely. But we were very concerned in the early rounds of BRAC that Langley would be a target. And I know the city and their surrounding cities and counties have worked closely to develop, and the state got involved for paying for half of the acquisition of lands in the clear zone and really protecting the safety of our citizens and the safety of Langley and the mission. But, you know, do you foresee you're getting some new intelligence efforts there?
Yeah, you know, you never know where BRAC is going to go, you know, so that's, and I mean, I think you hit it. You can't predict that. But I will tell you that the support that we get from the Joint Land Use Study, that's what you're talking about in the acquisition, that is huge I mean, BRAC proof is sort of a term that we've heard, but I mean, because in fact, Hampton just closed on another piece last week, and so really we only have one other area that's of concern around the base. But so the Joint Land Use Study and clearing all that clear zone around the base, the new mission here, I mean, I'm not sure if we're completely BRAC-proofed, but we are certain. No,
right.
But I think because it's a very good location, just in the Hampton Roads area, we have new missions, we continue growth. I mean, I think people really are looking at, this is what we did in the last 100 years, this is where we're going to go in the next 100 years, and so we welcome new missions. And so there's no crystal ball, but we feel fairly confident that we'll continue to grow as an installation.
I hope so. And I think, in fact, the bigger threat that Congress right now is flooding and continuing to work together, sea level rise, and what we can do to protect our shoreline, to protect some of the low-lying areas, and how we can develop in different ways to allow the water to go where the water needs to go, and yet not threaten mission on your side and lives and property on ours.
Yeah, so the sea level rise, we are in another great partnership. So Congress did a study with Old Dominion University, and we are actually a key advisor. They are doing great, and so we are partnered with Old Dominion and then with the Norfolk side, because we are second to only New Orleans for the sea level rise threats over the next 100 years. And so the good thing that we have learned over the last kind of 10, 20 years at Langley is how to, because we do get floods and we'll always get floods, and historically we've had about one flood every 10 years, and that seems to be going better. But we've done some mitigating strategies at Langley that we're getting through the city of Hampton to adopt some of those. We, you know, all of our new infrastructure will be above the 100-year rise level, but the partnership there is good because it is going to happen.
We all have to work together.
Yes.
It's not like one city or one base can make a difference here. We all have to figure out how to best survive.
Yes, ma'am.
In this world.
We're doing so. that is another thing that we're working on well. And you're exactly right. It has to be a partnership because, NASA, Pocosin, all of that is part of the region when we start looking at sea level rise mitigation strategies. Because if something does something, could impact the other.
Yeah, doing this jointly is the only way that it's going to work. Okay, well, the other thing I want to say is, from being a resident of Hampton for a while now, I know that we benefit in a lot of intangible ways by having Langley Air Force Base. And one of the things is people in the military are committed to service. And it's not just the service that they're doing. They are some of the most amazing volunteers for our nonprofits, for what the city does, for our boards and commissions. I mean, your folks step up not just on base and not just in their current mission, but in their mission of making the city and the surrounding localities better and doing great works. And I know that we as a city benefit for that, and I want to take this chance to thank you all for that as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's just a great partnership.
It is. It's wonderful. So I hope you guys will be around for another 100 years. I won't. You might not. But, but the base I hope will, and the city will, and we'll continue to grow and work together.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. I hope you've learned a little bit more about the base and what goes on at Langley, and will join us for their air show and open house later this spring. Thanks for watching.